Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone. Good morning, everyone. Today, I want to share a thought that's deeply personal, yet profoundly universal. The experience of thinking, I thought it was just me. It's a moment we've all had, isn't it? That sinking realization that the weight we've been carrying feels unbearably lonely. But what if it's not just us? What if that thought, that struggle, is the very thing that connects us? Let me share you. We live in a world that constantly bombards us with images and messages of what we're supposed to be, what success looks like, how happiness should feel, and what we must achieve to belong. It's a silent, ever-present narrative that whispers, if you're not perfect, you're not enough. Perfection, though, is a carefully constructed illusion. It's the photo filtered beyond recognition, the curated life presented on social media, the flawless smiles and effortless achievements we see everywhere. But behind the scenes, behind the filters and facades, is the truth we all share. None of it is real. Perfection is often what we strive for because we believe it will protect us. It feels like a suit of armor, shielding us from judgment, rejection, or failure. If I can just be perfect, we think, no one will criticize me, no one will see my flaws. But what we don't realize is that perfection doesn't protect us, it isolates us. It builds a wall between us and the people we long to connect with. Because deep down, we know perfection isn't honest. When we chase perfection, we miss out on something far more beautiful, authenticity. Real connection doesn't happen when we show up as a polished version of ourselves. It happens when we allow others to see us as we truly are. Messy, flawed, and gloriously human. And here's the irony. We admire vulnerability in others, but we're terrified to show it in ourselves. We look at someone who dares to share their truth, their imperfections, and we think, wow, they're so brave. But when it comes to our own lives, we hesitate. We believe our flaws will make us unworthy of love or belonging. But the truth is, our imperfections are what make us relatable, not our attempts to be perfect. No one connects over a flawless life. We connect over the cracks, the struggles, the moments where we let down the mask and say, this is me. Perfection isn't the goal. It's the myth that keeps us trapped in cycles of self-doubt and comparison. The courage to step away from that myth, to embrace our imperfect selves, is where true freedom begins. And in that freedom, we find something we've been searching for all along, belonging. Not because we're perfect, but because we're real. Shame is one of the most isolating emotions we experience. It's that deep, painful sense that we're flawed or unworthy, not because of something we've done, but because of who we are. Shame whispers in our ear, telling us we're not good enough, that we're the only ones who feel this way, and that if others knew our struggles, they'd reject us. It's a heavy burden, and its favorite tactic is to keep us silent. Shame thrives in the darkness. It convinces us to keep our struggles, mistakes, or fears hidden, feeding off our silence. The more we stay quiet, the more power shame gains. It grows larger and more oppressive, reinforcing the false belief that we're alone in our pain. And so the cycle continues. We feel shame, we stay silent, and shame digs its claws in deeper. But here's the thing, shame cannot survive being spoken. The moment we give voice to what we're feeling, the power of shame begins to diminish. When we take the brave step to say, this is what I'm going through, or this is how I feel, we bring those hidden fears into the light. And in that light, shame starts to lose its grip. Think about a time when you finally shared something you were struggling with, something you thought you had to keep to yourself. Maybe you expected judgment or rejection, but instead someone said, I understand, I've been there too. That's the power of breaking the silence. It not only frees us from shame's hold, but it also creates connection. It's a reminder that we're never as alone as we think. Silence might feel safer in the moment. It feels like a way to protect ourselves from being judged or misunderstood. But silence is isolating. It cuts us off from the very thing we need to heal: empathy. When we let others into our struggles, we give them the opportunity to show us compassion, to remind us that we're human, and to say, you're not alone. Of course, sharing isn't easy. It takes courage to be vulnerable, to open up about the things we're most afraid of revealing. But vulnerability isn't weakness, it's strength. It's a deliberate choice to say, this is me, and I'm trusting you with my story. And when we find safe spaces and trusted people to share with, we take a powerful step toward reclaiming our worth. The truth is, shame will always try to silence us. But every time we speak up, every time we share a truth, we take away some of its power. We remind ourselves and others that no one is perfect, that everyone struggles, and that we're worthy of love and connection just as we are. Empathy is one of the most powerful forces in the human experience. It's the ability to step into someone else's world, to feel with them rather than for them, and to hold space for their emotions without judgment. It's not about fixing, advising, or even fully understanding. It's about being present and saying, I may not have experienced exactly what you're going through, but I'm here with you. When someone is struggling, our natural instinct is often to make it better. We want to offer solutions or say things like, at least it's not worse, or you'll get through it. These responses usually come from a good place, a desire to help or provide comfort, but they can unintentionally dismiss the other person's pain. Empathy, on the other hand, resists that urge to fix. It's not about making the problem go away. It's about making the person feel seen, heard, and understood. Empathy says, tell me what this is like for you. It creates space for someone to share their story without fear of being minimized or judged. And in that space, something incredible happens. Shame begins to dissolve. When we feel alone in our pain, shame thrives. But when someone meets us with empathy, it's like a lifeline. It reminds us that our feelings are valid and that we're not alone. And the beauty of empathy is that it doesn't require us to have all the answers. You don't need to be an expert or have experienced the exact same thing to offer empathy. What it does require is a willingness to listen, to withhold judgment, and to be fully present. Sometimes just saying, I don't know exactly what to say, but I'm here, is the most empathetic response you can give. Empathy is also a skill, and like any skill, it can be developed. It starts with listening, not just hearing words, but truly paying attention to what someone is saying and how they're feeling. It involves asking questions, being curious, and resisting the temptation to make it about you. Empathy asks us to quiet our own inner voices long enough to focus completely on someone else's experience. And what makes empathy so transformative is its ability to create connection. When someone shows us empathy, it bridges the gap between you and me. It reminds us that we're not so different, that our shared humanity is stronger than our individual struggles. And it gives us permission to let our guard down, to be vulnerable, and to trust. In a world that often feels divided, empathy is a radical act. It's a choice to prioritize understanding over judgment, compassion over criticism, and connection over isolation. And while empathy doesn't solve problems directly, it lays the foundation for healing, growth, and meaningful relationships. When we practice empathy, we not only help others feel less alone, but we also strengthen our own capacity for courage and connection. It's a reminder that even in the darkest moments, we can be a light for one another, not by fixing, but simply by being there. And sometimes that's all we really need. Courage is often misunderstood. We tend to think of it as bold, grand acts, standing on a stage, leading a charge, or taking dramatic risks. But real courage often looks quieter. It's the moment you decide to be honest about your feelings. It's admitting that you don't have all the answers. It's showing up authentically, even when it feels uncomfortable or scary. And here's the most beautiful thing about courage. It doesn't just transform us, it inspires others. When we choose to be brave, even in small ways, it sends a powerful message to those around us. It says, you don't have to be perfect to show up. You don't have to have it all together to be enough. And that message is contagious. When someone witnesses courage, it creates a ripple effect. It gives others permission to let go of their own fears and step into their vulnerability. Think about a time when someone shared their story with you, the real, unpolished version. Maybe it was a friend admitting they were struggling, a colleague expressing doubts about their abilities, or a loved one opening up about something deeply personal. Chances are their honesty didn't make you think less of them. It made you feel closer to them. Their courage created space for connection and reminded you that you're not alone in your own struggles. That's the power of courage. It breaks down walls. It dismantles the facade of perfection that keeps us isolated. When we see someone else being brave, we realize we don't have to hold ourselves to impossible standards. Their courage gives us the strength to say, if they can do it, maybe I can too. That courage isn't without risk. It often means stepping into uncertainty, facing judgment, or opening yourself up to vulnerability. It can feel uncomfortable, even terrifying. Yet, in that discomfort lies growth. Each time we choose courage, we stretch our capacity to face challenges and build resilience. And the more we practice it, the easier it becomes to inspire others to do the same. Courage doesn't just inspire, it connects. It's the moment when a parent admits to their child that they don't have all the answers, but they're trying their best. It's the friend who speaks up about their mental health, breaking the silence and inviting others to do the same. It's the leader who admits to making a mistake, modeling accountability and humility. These acts of courage don't just transform individual lives, they create cultures of trust, empathy, and openness. The truth is, we don't always realize the impact our courage has on others. A small, brave act, like sharing your story, setting a boundary, or speaking up for what's right, can ripple out in ways you'll never see. It can inspire someone else to take a leap, to be honest about their own struggles, or to stand up for themselves in a way they didn't think they could. Courage isn't about being fearless. It's about showing up despite the fear. It's about choosing authenticity over comfort, vulnerability over hiding, and connection over isolation. And the best part, every time you choose courage, you make it a little easier for someone else to do the same. So when you're faced with a choice between staying safe or stepping into vulnerability, remember this. Your courage matters. It doesn't just change you, it has the power to change the people around you. And in a world that often feels divided and disconnected, a little courage can go a long way. Because courage, when shared, doesn't just grow, it multiplies. From the moment we're born, the world begins sending us messages about who we should be. We're told to strive, to improve, to achieve more, look better, act differently, and be everything to everyone. Somewhere along the way, many of us internalize a painful belief that we're not enough, not smart enough, not talented enough, not successful enough, not lovable enough. It's a quiet but persistent voice whispering that if we could just be more, whatever more is, then we'd finally be worthy. But the truth is, you are enough, exactly as you are. Not because of what you've accomplished or how others see you, but because of the simple fact that you exist. Your worth isn't something you earn. It's something you inherently possess. Yet, this truth can feel so hard to accept in a culture that constantly pushes us to compare, compete, and prove ourselves. Believing you are enough doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean there's no room for growth or that you won't make mistakes. What it means is that your value isn't tied to those things. You're not enough because you succeeded today or because you finally reached a goal. You're enough on the days when you struggle, when you fall short, when you feel like a mess. Being enough is about embracing your humanity, all of it, not just the shiny, polished parts. Think about how often we define ourselves by external metrics, our jobs, our relationships, our achievements, or how others perceive us. We tell ourselves, if I can just get this promotion, lose this weight, find the right partner, or make people happy, then I'll feel worthy. But the problem with chasing worthiness is that it's a moving target. No matter how much you achieve, there's always another milestone, another comparison, another reason to feel not enough. When you believe you are enough, you start to let go of that chase. You begin to see yourself not as a project to be perfected, but as a person to be loved. Flaws, messiness, and all. You recognize that your value doesn't diminish because of a mistake, a bad day, or someone else's opinion. And perhaps most importantly, you stop looking for external validation to tell you what you already know deep down. You are enough. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice, a daily choice to challenge the inner critic and replace those old limiting beliefs with self-compassion. It's about learning to speak to yourself with the same kindness and understanding you'd offer a dear friend. When you mess up, instead of berating yourself, you can say, it's okay. I'm human. And I'm still enough. Believing you are enough doesn't just transform the way you see yourself. It changes the way you show up in the world. When you know you're enough, you're more willing to take risks, to pursue your dreams, and to let yourself be seen. You stop playing small out of fear that you're not good enough, and you start living in alignment with who you truly are. This belief also impacts how you connect with others. When you feel enough, you stop comparing yourself to everyone around you. You don't need to tear others down to feel better about yourself, nor do you feel threatened by their successes. Instead, you can celebrate their victories while knowing they don't diminish your own worth. Ultimately, believing you are enough isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been. It's about unlearning the messages that told you otherwise and coming back to the truth that's been there all along. So the next time you catch yourself thinking, I'm not enough, pause, take a deep breath, and remind yourself, you don't have to do more, be more, or prove anything to anyone. You are enough. Not because of what you've done, but because of who you are. Just as you are, right here, right now, you are worthy of love, belonging, and joy. And that will never change. Let's leave here today with a shared commitment to speak our truths, to hold space for one another, and to remind ourselves again and again that we're never as alone as we think. Because the most powerful words in the world aren't, I have all the answers. They're, I thought it was just me, but it's not. Thank you.